Hello and welcome to the Aquapod. On this week's episode, on the eve of the Aquatics GB Diving Championships, I'm joined by Edinburgh Diving Club's Angus, Menmuir and Libby. We discuss their preparation for the championships in Birmingham, their journey into the sport, their progress over the past couple of years, including Angus's appearance at the Birmingham Commonwealth Games, and their goals for the rest of the season. Without further ado, welcome Angus and Libby onto the podcast. Thanks very much for coming on, guys. How are you both doing?
Doing all right. Yeah, we've got nationals next week, so just preparing for that.
Yeah, I'm good. Like Angus said, it's quite a busy training period, quite tough at the moment, but ready to go next week.
You obviously both mentioned nationals there. How is training going for that? Are you kind of in your final stages of preparation now?
Yeah, so just over a week out from competitions, we've been doing a lot of mock competition sort of prep. Just trying to dial in, find the last few finishing touches before competing next week.
Yeah, it's quite just minimal stuff, not tiring ourselves out before next week. So just kind of running through lists, making sure everything's as good as it can be, doing the little lead ups and stuff, trying to minimise as much impact on 10 metre and stuff as we can.
Yeah, I was kind of going to ask is about that because your sport's quite unique in that other sports, for example, swimming or athletics, you would do a taper or you would really minimise the amount of meters you were running or swimming. How does that adapt to diving? Is it just a case of you're trying not to get yourself injured by taking too many risks in the days and weeks leading up, or is it a little bit more technical than that?
Especially for platform, obviously 10 metre has a lot of impact on wrists, shoulders, neck and stuff. So we don't want to do too much. So quite often it's just maybe one of each of our dive, quite light sessions, and then making sure we've got days where we're not up on 10 metres, so we've got time to recover, and then do the basics that also are good for your ops that you need to do.
Yeah, so as Libby said, you keep it quite light, in the 1 or 2 weeks before the competition, but all before that, it's building up so that you've done enough numbers on 10 meters so that your body's actually strong enough, so that when you do get to the week of the competition and you're having to do maybe 20 or 30 10-meter contacts, you have to make sure that your body's strong enough to handle that. And I mean, this national is going to be a little bit different because it's a bit more spread out, especially for me. I'm going to be competing Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, especially with 10-meter individual spread across the Saturday and the Sunday. So normally we'd probably be doing even more contacts than we are. But it's actually a little bit nicer this way, I think.
Well, that's good. When you're kind of in this phase of training, just before competition, are you sort of itching to get out there and actually do it? Does it feel just a bit like you're kind of waiting for it to happen now?
Yeah, I would say so. I can feel the nerves a little bit, it just
Yeah.
quite deep down inside me, and yeah, kind of just itching to just get going.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think you've done your list so many times, you just want to go out there, give it your best shot. I feel like there's only so many times you can keep doing your lists before you start just, like what you said, itching to get going.
I think we'll come back to champs and what you guys are looking for from it a little bit later on. But I thought we would maybe just kind of go back to the start of both of your diving journeys. You've both been at Edinburgh Diving Club for a long time, Angus, you especially. How did you kind of both get into diving and how did that come about? I don't know if you want to start, Angus.
Yeah, sure, I'll go first. So I'm from Dalkeith, just outside of Edinburgh, uh, more specifically Newton Grange, and we had a swimming pool there with a 1 meter and a 3 meter diving board, and it was actually whilst the Royal Commonwealth pool was being refurbished for the, I think it was the 2014 Commonwealth Games.
Yeah.
And Edinburgh Diving Club had actually
Yeah,
come out.
Common Games, Glasgow.
Yeah. So Edinburgh Diving Club had actually come out to my local pool to use that as their like training facility. And I'd seen that I'd seen the diving lessons on, and I thought that was really cool. And at the time I was like still like learning to swim, but I hated it and I was desperate to stop. And the only way I could get to stop swimming lessons was by my mum putting me into diving lessons. So I actually started diving as a means to stop swimming.
That's pretty cool, though. I guess it's a route that a lot of people follow, isn't it? That maybe don't like swimming, but they want to be involved in an aquatic sport, and in a way, diving is quite rock and roll, isn't it? It looks cool.
Yeah, they can both be like scary in their own ways. Uh, but I'd say diving, from my perspective, can be a bit more intense, a bit more like electrifying, if you will.
And Libby, what about you?
Yeah, so when I was about 7, it was the first series of the programme. It was Splash. I don't know if you ever watched it. It was like a diving programme, and it was when
Oh yeah,
people they brought in celebrities to try diving. And I was just watching it on the telly. Thought that looked quite cool, so my mum booked me into the lessons at the commie pool on a Saturday morning. And from there I was then worked my way up the levels and then was selected to join the club, and then I just worked my way up from there.
You did gymnastics before diving, didn't you, Libby?
Yeah, I did gymnastics for a long time. I think I started gymnastics when I was about 4. And I already did swimming, so I was quite a strong swimmer. I had like the leg line and the form and things that coaches do look for, which I think helped make me kind of stand out for them to put me forward for the club.
yeah, that's pretty cool. I know you're. Was it Trinent you were at, Libby? Is that
Yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah,
So you were still a strong swimmer up until your teenage years and things. What made you
yes.
choose diving in the end? What was the thing that got to you?
Yeah, so it was during lockdown was when I stopped swimming officially, but I just chose diving. It's so rewarding. It can be tough. It is a brutal sport quite often, but it's so unpredictable. And again, you do something well, you just feel so good after it. And I think it's so, like, you've got to be so brave, but determined. And I think that was just all the things that I had, which I thought I'm going to do diving.
And then you both, from sort of getting into the sport and progressing through age groups and things like that, you got to the point where you both won your first national senior title in 2021, and it was actually the same year you both won your first one individually, and then I believe you both did the synchro together, didn't you? The platform
Oh yeah.
synchro.
Yeah, we did.
So your careers are kind of linked in quite a nice way. What was that like, sort of having that experience? I know there wasn't many competitors in the Scottish side, but still having that accolade as the country's best, effectively, in the platform in synchro as well.
Yeah, well, I think diving in Scotland is quite a small sport, but I think equally, like, don't take it away from yourself. Do you know what I mean? You're still are the champion, although there might not be many people in it. You still managed to get that far. And I think sometimes you're just competing against your own self, your own PBs, your own best dive to show what you can accomplish. Sometimes it's not about how many people's in the competition. It's about how well you approach your competition, how well you do it, and the results come from that.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. Because especially at like Scottish nationals, you do find yourself competing against maybe one or two other Scottish divers, and it does become more of like a competition against yourself, just to see uh how just to almost like just a way of measuring how all the hard work you've put in and seeing if it's going to pay off. But I still like that year in 2021. It was such a rewarding feeling, like finally like getting a first senior national title, and then yeah, me and Libby did the synchro afterwards, and I think we both felt pretty knackered already because we'd competed
Yeah.
twice that day, and it was on the Sunday, the end of a long weekend. So I think it was pretty impressive just to survive the synchro competition at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was good going. And for you, Angus, that title kind of put you on a nice path. And then the months kind of leading after that, your performances earned you selection onto Team Scotland for the Birmingham Commonwealth Games.
Yeah.
How was that experience? I know I was down there with you and we spoke a few times, but kind of having that bit of distance nearly 2 years ago, how do you kind of look back and assess that experience and your performances as well?
Uh, it was a complete whirlwind, to be honest, because uh, like just a couple of months before Scottish Nationals, which, as you say, was kind of what kicked off the whole process towards being selected for Birmingham. And just a couple months before that, I'd started university. I think I did it for 2 weeks before I sat down, and I had this meeting with my coach where she just basically said, uh, Birmingham, there's the potential that you could qualify for Birmingham, but you're going to have to start training like a lot more. It's going to be really hard. And at that time as well, I was kind of at a turning point in my career where I was like, I'm not sure if I want to do platform anymore. I don't always enjoy it that much, but I know I am good at it. And she was like, if you want to qualify for the Commonwealth Games, then your best shout is to do it through platform. So I had to make quite a few hard decisions. Um, I decided to defer my year at uni, and I also decided that I was going to stick with platform, and then it paid off. Um, but the whole journey after, literally straight after that, uh, Scottish Nationals, it was a whirlwind. Did it like everything changed? I could never have imagined it changing so much. Like had about 7 competitions in 6 months after that. I got selected onto like the national senior team. Uh, I was going on trips abroad representing like Scotland. It was all new to me, and I'm really proud of myself for not like getting carried away by it all, and just taking it in my stride and just trying to enjoy it. Which is, I think, it's the best way that you can approach anything is if you just try and enjoy it. Uh, like there's things are going to happen and they're going to be out of your control, so you can't get carried away too much by them.
And obviously, you're going to be returning to that pool and this coming week for nationals. What will the kind of emotions be like? Do you think? I know there's not going to be as big a crowd and everything. It's not going to be quite as big an occasion, but well, you still have those kind of feelings of it being quite a special place for you in your career.
Yeah, definitely. Like I've got lots and lots of fond memories of the place, but this time it's going to be like so different. So I will just approach it the same way, try and enjoy it. There's still going to be a lot of pressure. Like we've got selection scores to try and we all have selection scores to try and meet. Uh, so and like yeah, the TV cameras I think will be there, won't they? So the pressure will still be there, but just try and enjoy it.
And Libby, coming off the back of sort of 2021, you've made a whole load of progress as well. I wonder if you kind of want to talk about some of your favourite experiences over the past couple of years. What stood out for you as being maybe a turning point or a point where you feel you made a lot of progress?
So I think start of 2023 was quite a turning point for me. I got my dives back up to 10, up to my tariff, which was quite new to me. So I added in two 3.2 tariff dives on 10 meter. So I worked my way back up, got everything back, and then start of 2024 this year, I was selected for the junior GB team. So I went to Italy for my first GB competition, and then I've just recently come back from Dresden in Germany, which was quite a big achievement for me. From the dives that I did have, the fact that I've managed to up my tariff, I'm just proud of getting there. That was kind of my biggest aim, was to make a GB selection, and I'm glad I did that in my last junior year as my last chance.
How how tricky is it when you are a platform diver or that's your kind of main focus? I know you do the other events as well, Libby, but just chipping away and trying to add new dives and keep improving them to kind of to take those difficulty scores up a little bit higher. What is the process of that, and how difficult can it be?
Yeah, it is quite tricky, and I do notice obviously balancing three boards is quite tough. For example, I was just at Junior Elites, which was in Birmingham, where I did three boards, and then I also did synchro, and it was quite tough splitting up my training when people are, for example, people on platform are only focusing on that one board, and I'm splitting my time between three. It is quite tough, but I think the more opportunities you get, the better. So it is quite difficult sometimes to learn new dive, but it's about using the times that you've got when you've not got competitions coming up, to use those times to do the lead ups, challenge yourself, put it up in plenty of time for a competition to then work on it so that it is ready.
And your performances reflected that anyway down in Birmingham, just as you mentioned at the junior elites. Your performances have looked really promising for potentially a selection on the European juniors team. Nothing confirmed yet, but strong performances from yourself. How would an experience like that be, do you think, if you ended up selected as part of that GB group?
Yeah, it would mean a lot to me. It's a major competition, and it would be a great achievement. I think just even to be selected to go there, give it my all, would mean a lot to me. And especially as my last junior year, it's all going to change next year as a senior. So I think to know that all my hard work's paid off would really mean a lot. And to go and represent GB at such a high level event is a great opportunity.
Fantastic. You both kind of touched on it, but you've both obviously been students, both at school and Angus now university. How challenging can that be, sort of trying to balance exams and just studying in general, alongside being kind of an elite sports person? Attempting to get on teams for big competitions, but also just at national level as well. How tricky can that be?
It can be really difficult. Like, I've just finished my exams for second year university last week, and like most people finish their exams and then it's like such a weight off your shoulders. You can just relax, enjoy the summer now. But not for us. We've got to start thinking about Birmingham. We've got so it's just kind of jumping from one big task to the next. But it is also so much more rewarding that way, I think. And it kind of like, I don't know, especially with diving, it's just a bit different from what like most people are doing. So I find it really rewarding and quite satisfying actually, even though it is so difficult.
Yeah, I think even like finishing school or uni, people will maybe go out with their friends for lunch or maybe a slow walk back, whereas we're having to kind of rush back to get to training, make sure we're having a proper lunch, and head straight to training where you need to be at your best. And I think that is tough, and it's something that you do have to choose. Whether you take the opportunities that you're given, train your best, or whether you do take the easier road. And I guess if you want to get to such a high level, you do have to make sacrifices. And sometimes it is hard to juggle between school and diving, but the more you do it, the more you get used to it.
Do you think that will be something that helps you kind of after diving as well? You know, I know you're both young and relatively close to the start of your careers, but do you think once you're finished, that kind of discipline and being able to put so much focus on one thing, but also have that balance, do you think that will help you kind of going forward?
Yeah, I would imagine so. Like, I think it's good whilst you're young to be able to let off a little bit of steam, uh, but also it's very important to make sure you don't like lose that discipline and that ability to like focus your attention throughout the day. Like once you leave school and you go to university, I think it can probably be quite easy to lose that. But yeah, having diving and like managing university and diving, it very much like keeps you in a strict routine, which yeah, has got to be good for later in life.
Yeah, I think the same, especially obviously when you're younger. Like I went on my first away trip without my parents and stuff when I was 7. And I think that does show a lot of um like resilience and stuff. You're going away. It is a big thing when you were younger. You didn't really have a phone. You kind of just were left to get on with it. You're in hotel rooms with other children and you just kind of need to learn to pack your bag and set an alarm and get up when you need to, which is quite a big thing when you are only a young age. And when you grow up as well, like for nationals, we're staying in an Airbnb, we're making the dinner every night, like chores, routines, and I think it does definitely help. It will help in the future.
Turning our attention back to the big one in Birmingham, how are you both feeling about it, and what are your kind of aims going into that in terms of your performances?
For me, uh, I, I feel good just now. The night before the competition, I'll try to start winding down early. I'll stick still game on or something, and that'll just be me as just before I'm going to sleep, and hopefully that'll be enough so that in the morning I'm not feeling too nervous. Uh, and I'd love to I'd love to get a new PB. I've been working really hard like the last few months, and uh, some of the dives that I've like previously this year not been doing so well. I've managed to make them a lot more steady. So I think a new PB would definitely be possible, and hopefully, hopefully I achieve it. But we'll have to wait and see.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, I just recently changed my front 3.5 from tuck to pike. So I'd like to compete that, get that done for the first time, give it my best. Me and Ellen are going to do it in synchro as well, which is quite a big thing because we usually do front 2.5, which is obviously a 2.4, but we're going up to a 3.0.
Hmm.
So we're hoping with a bit of tariff, it'll help us to get a new PB, new score. I think working on my competition routine, if something goes wrong, not letting it get to my head, moving on to the next dive. obviously I'm used to junior lists, which are a lot more dives. I'm used to doing 9, so going down to 5 is quite different for me. So it's kind of controlling it. There's no, obviously 5 dives, there's less room for mistakes. So it's just keeping myself composed.
I think it's a bit of a shame going into Birmingham. The synchro teams for the Olympics have already been selected.
Yeah.
Not because either like myself and my synchro partner, Libby and Ellen, would be like really like gunning for Olympic selection. But it just means the event's going to be like really quiet, which is just a shame. Because people will be choosing to focus much more on their individual competitions that way. But it just does, yeah. It means that the synchro events they could be so much more exciting to watch, and you'd get a lot more involvement. I think if they just held off the selections for a little bit longer.
Yeah, I think the same, especially because we practice synchro just probably not quite as much, but we still give it a lot of attention. And then to go down to Birmingham when there's only 2 people in your event, it is a bit of a shame. I think it's almost like the event's written off, but it is actually quite an important event for, especially Scotland. Every event matters for selections and stuff, especially with Bolzano coming up. Every event is useful and worth something. But yeah, I guess we just have to take what we've got.
Yeah, and it's like Libby says, it's an important opportunity for us, but then the people watching they don't really see that, and I think they just see, oh, there's only one team or 2 teams in this event, which makes it less entertaining to watch. But then it's still just as important for us as like from a performance perspective.
Yeah.
Of course. No, I think that's quite honest from the both of you, and potentially is a bit of an opportunity missed. I know some of the parents are still competing that have been selected for the Olympics, but it doesn't quite hold that same feeling, does it? When they've already been selected, and actually it doesn't mean as much to them. On a more positive note, the competition is going to be streamed on BBC. I believe for the first time for diving nationals anyway. How good is it seeing a little bit more coverage for diving after it happened at swimming as well in April?
Yeah, I think that's really exciting. I think it's a really good opportunity for everyone. I think often diving is quite hard for people to understand. Like you say, oh yeah, I do diving, but they don't quite get the whole understanding of the sport. So I think giving the opportunity on such a wide broadcasting channel will be good for the sport and for individual people as well.
Yeah, no, I agree. For us, I think it makes it a little bit more like nerve-wracking knowing that there could be like thousands or hundreds of thousands of people watching. Maybe not that many. Maybe I'm getting a bit
You never know.
ahead of myself, but it's a great opportunity to grow the sport on like a national level. Hopefully, get a few more people involved, and it's just really exciting opportunity.
Just before we kind of wrap up, I was doing a little bit of kind of digging through some of the archives and Googling both your names to see what would come up. And there was quite a good quote from you, Angus, actually, leading into Birmingham Commonwealth Games.
Is this the one that was like, it was like titled "Blocking Out the Fear" or something?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Yeah, my dad had a good laugh with his friends when that came out. The article makes me sound like an absolute wimp, I think.
No, I liked it because it said the quote was, "It doesn't stop being scary," which I thought was quite a good way of looking at the sport, and almost I think you guys maybe forget about it sometimes, but it's a dangerous sport and it's an exciting sport, and the vast majority of people will never even set foot on a 10-metre platform, let alone jump off it. So I wonder if you kind of want to have just a round up and a word on that, and maybe how cool and unique a sport diving is.
Yeah, especially 10-meter diving, like it's such a mentally challenging sport, and you have to deal with all sorts of like negative thoughts that you're having on the board, and that it doesn't go away when you're competing either. So you go from like training in a really controlled like environment with no spectators, and you're still having all these like mental battles with yourself, really. And then yeah, adds the additional pressure of there's going to be like BBC filming crews, there's going to be a crowd, there's Olympic selections up for some people, and there's just so much going on, and you just have to be really really focused and just tuned into your own thoughts and your own ways of dealing with all the sort of like all the mental side of the sport. It is really, really unique, I think, in that way.
Like, you can be such an underdog into a competition, anything can happen. I think if you're in a swimming race and you've got a time and you're 5 seconds ahead of everyone else, you are probably most likely going to win. But I think with diving, it's just so unpredictable. You've got hurdles, you've got handstands. If you don't hold a handstand, that's already automatically probably maximum of 4s, 5s, which is obviously a big deal for such a high level competition. And I think as long as you go and give it your all, there's not really much more you can ask. And anything, there's always lessons to take. There's always things to work on. And I think that's the main thing with these competitions, is knowing what you did well, what maybe didn't go so well, and working on it for the next time.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Libby and Angus. Appreciate you both coming on the Aquapod. Best of luck for nationals, and I'll see you both there.
Thank you very much.
For those of you that are still with us, thanks again for listening to the Aquapod. You can listen to previous episodes on Apple, Spotify and YouTube. Until next time, thank you.